Hi guys, I'm Adam Wilborn from WhatCulture.
And I'm Andy Murray from WhatCulture, and today I'm going to tell you what John Cena really thinks of negative WWE fans, and on top of that we've got a backstage update on the Forgotten Sons who might be returning.
Plus, could Kofi Kingston be set to feud with Roman Reigns? And an update on Tenille Dashwood, aka Emma from WWE, and her status with Impact Wrestling. This is the news.
Let's kick things off by talking John Cena. There's a new episode of WWE Untold up on the network, so it's got some interesting sound bites, as these documentaries always do. The difficult thing with these documentaries is sometimes they're full of company bollocks and sometimes you get some good snippets out of them. This has a good quote here from John Cena, talking about fans' reactions in WWE, saying basically that whether people are cheering or booing him, he is always pleased to have drawn engaged reactions throughout his career. I'm just going to read the quote to you here. Every time you see me come out, it's like I'm shot out of a cannon. It's because I'm ready to go, and that's whether you're telling me I suck or whether you're telling me I'm great. It's why I orchestrate you to continue to make noise, because as a performer, this makes me feel 10 feet tall. Just an audible reaction. I love it when a group of people has so much energy that it's viscerally negative to me. I also love it when the energy is so overwhelmingly positive. It does lift you up. It's like it's all so effing wonderful. So John Cena basically doesn't give a crap if you cheer him or if you boo him. Now, this is always kind of like apparent from the way he'd react to these things in character. Like, if he comes out and he gets jeered, he'll stand at the top of the ramp and go, "Oh boy, fired up tonight." And it was always kind of like this cheesy thing where you're like, "Shut up, John, man, come on." But, for a guy who addressed his perceived failings as a headliner so bluntly in the Firefly Funhouse at WrestleMania 36, I think we can start to see these things now that we have that context as a product of self-awareness. John Cena's a smart guy. He's not blind to the fact that for long periods of his career, a lot of people weren't all that fond of him. But, the stage he is in his career now, he's barely even a part-timer anymore. He's more like a once-a-year guy. I think it's safe to say that a lot of that negativity has washed away, and I think the Firefly Funhouse will be a big part of ensuring that continues going forward.
Yeah, mixed emotions on this one. I kind of feel the same way as when people say, well, any publicity's good publicity. Is it though? I don't think it is. I used to love it when he'd come out and there'd be deafening boos, even though they were trying to tweak every little knob and twiddle that could make it sound like everyone in the arena was cheering for him. And Michael Cole would say, well, he always guarantees some sort of reaction. Let's not mention that everyone hates him. I think the only time that he openly acknowledged that everyone hated him in one specific arena was when he was in ECW, of course, facing Rob Van Dam, defending his WWE Championship, where he just walked out and went, yeah, you and I can't make this oh, well, this is a little bit different. There's a massive sign behind him saying, if Cena wins, we riot. So, to be honest, nowadays, like you say, with absence making the heart grow fonder, I pop every time I get to see John Cena, but yes, admittedly, probably would have been one of those people all those years ago just going, oh my God, anyone but Cena when Super Cena was knocking about. And just, even when there was just such visceral response, he'd just put on his little cheesy grin and go, whoa, that's what it's like here and then wherever they are. So, yeah, obviously, presumably in the back, it'd be better to get some sort of reaction than just bloody crickets, but I sense that if you're meant to be this super over baby face, it's not great to get 50% deafening boos when your music hits. But speaking of people who divide opinion, or who did, I think everyone universally now thinks, God, he's mint, isn't he? Roman Reigns. Of course, he was on SmackDown this week. God, if you haven't seen the end of SmackDown, watch it just for Roman's facial expression changing. I watched this about 5 times. I thought it was sensational stuff, and you know what, Andy? We were talking about this before we started recording, but I'm going to say it on camera now. Is this going to be the best Clash of Champions ever? Well, WWE, Clash. There's been 4, or there will have been 4 after this year, so it's a low bar. But anyway, speaking of him, Kofi Kingston, speaking to ABC6, has discussed the potential of facing Universal Champion Roman Reigns down the line, or more specifically, has sort of alluded to a potential match as a result of Roman's heel turn and alignment with Paul Heyman. Kofi said he was a guy who had all the tools. He's in movies, he's the big dog and the top dog in the yard. Why do you need this parasite, Paul Heyman? Why do you need him to further yourself? He added that Roman was already there, meaning at the top of the card, and he said, I'm going to talk to him when I get there and try to figure out what's going on. Because of all the people in the world, why Paul Heyman? I don't understand it. He didn't need to go down that route. I expect to say Kofi, not a great history with Paul Heyman, guys, considering how his WWE Championship reign came to an end. But enough about all that. God, this sounds like a great feud. And I have to say, I'm really looking forward to Jey Uso versus Roman at the pay-per-view.
Yeah, it should be good stuff. I mean, Kofi makes sense as like a defense. He's a former champion, obviously, former WWE champion. So he has that credibility and so forth. I think it'd be a great match as well. I think it'd be good stuff. The Jey Uso match is going to rule. Lots of really interesting stuff going on at the very top of the card on SmackDown at the moment. Speaking of SmackDown, not necessarily at the top of the card, but we've got a report here from Fightful Select talking about the Forgotten Sons. Basically, to summarise, discussions on bringing these fellas back to television have resumed. The creative department are seemingly devising material for a return for Jackson Ryker, Steve Cutler and Wesley Blake. And they've even been lended some advice backstage from Edge, who I'm sure set them on a good path. So, the Forgotten Sons were taken off television in June. This was a product of Jackson Ryker making the decision to use heightened racial tensions in the United States to put heel heat on himself and his catchphrase and his group with an ill-timed political tweet. Feels like we have to say this every time we cover this topic, but he was not, as perception is among certain fans, punished for supporting somebody else to certain WWE audience members. Look, Linda McMahon is on a super PAC for Donald Trump's re-election. If you think Jackson Ryker was punished because he supports Donald Trump, do your homework. No, it was a silly, boneheaded, thoughtless thing to do. Not all heat is good heat. And I think that if you're using really delicate social situations to further a wrestling character, as Kevin Owens pointed out, this is kind of a crappy thing to do. Mustafa Ali spoke out in public as well. Cutler and Blake on Twitter, they distanced themselves from those takes. Even Riker's own sister came out and said, "This was dumb, brother. What are you doing?" Everyone was removed from TV. Cutler and Blake did nothing wrong, but they're kind of guilty by association, I guess, in the company's point of view. Riker had hit Instagram to tease a comeback last month, and Dave Meltzer has previously reported that they were actually in line to beat the New Day and become tag team champions before all of this went down. So, looks like they're on the way back. There's no word on whether or not Riker will actually be involved in the group if this happens, but I hope the dumbass has learned his lesson because that was very stupid.
Yeah, incredibly dumb, that tweet, and quite right that they were taken off TV as a result of it. I don't want to have a go, but I have absolutely no desire to see these guys back on TV anytime soon. I think they need, I'm not saying a complete change of gimmick, but just something less bloody boring. I couldn't care less when they're on my TV screen, so I don't want just the fear of, oh God, I hope they're not tag team champions to be the dominating emotion. I want to, know a bit more about their end goal here rather than just we're grumpy because you forgot us sort of thing. I think what do you reckon? Am I alone in this? I didn't really catch them that much in NXT. The only time I saw them was when people were like, oh God, don't let them win the tag titles, when there was that mint ladder match in NXT.
They had next to no character development in NXT. Yeah. Was a big problem. They barely got any promo time. We learned nothing about these guys as human beings other than they've been forgotten, and they had the beards, and they were just gruff beard men. There wasn't a whole lot going on. So, full credit to them as performers. I really enjoyed Wesley Blake back in the day when he was teaming with Buddy Murphy and so forth. And they're skilled dudes, and they've got something to offer. But I do feel like they definitely need a fresh coat of paint. The gimmick wasn't really fleshed out. The characters weren't there. Let's do something else with them. Let's get them away from this, character that was always going to spike certain tensions in the first place.
Let's move on finally and wrap up by talking about Tenille Dashwood. You may, of course, remember her as Emma, or very, very briefly, Emelina in WWE. Well, she has signed signed a contract making her exclusive to Impact Wrestling, according to reports from Fightful Select. Dashwood has no desire to work for any other wrestling promotion. She's happy in Impact, having explored every option available to her prior to inking this new contract. She said she can't picture wrestling not being in her life, and was swayed by Impact prioritising her as an important signing. No word yet on how long the deal is. She's been with Impact Wrestling since July 2019. She did some stuff with Ring of Honor before that, of course, and was off for ages with some horrible injuries and issues outside of the ring. Great to see her back, and another great signing for Impact Wrestling, it should be said.
Yep. Very happy for Emma, Jesus Christ, for Tenille Dashwood. She had a terrible year, 2018 to 2019. She's been immediately re-emerged as a big thing in Impact, rubbing shoulders with Deonna Purrazzo in recent weeks. She's a talented performer, has a lot to offer. Happy for her, happy for Impact.
Let's move on to your Twitter questions at WhatCulture WWE. Of course, you want to get in touch with us. First question today comes from Jake, who says, how's this for some fantasy booking? Cesaro and Nakamura beat the Street Profits to unify the tag team belts. Then Otis uses his Money in the Bank contract, and he and Tucker win the belts so that Otis can visit Raw and see his sweet peach Mandy again. I love that.
I think that's the best possible way to use that briefcase. I think using it on a world title, that ship has long since sailed. You can't have Roman Reigns lose a belt to Otis. Briefcase or no briefcase, you cannot do that. That would be nuts. So yes, this is a very good idea. Excellent.
There we go. Yeah, completely agree with that. Make it happen, WWE. Second question today comes from Big Joe 83, who says, hello chaps, with Roman Reigns' heel turn and the Bloodline storyline, can you see, get this, a Rock versus Roman WrestleMania match, or potentially Brock versus Roman with Brock as the face?
The Brock versus Roman thing I think is very interesting. It's, you can easily have Brock come back and go on the rampage. It's like, Paul Heyman, why did you... I hate that guy. Why are you hanging out with him? We can't be friends anymore. I think that's a really easy story to tell. And you can have Brock as a badass babyface just destroying stuff, because Brock's awesome. The Rock thing is a little more tricky. I think it's like an ultimate WrestleMania match to book. Like, if there's any way they can put that together, they should absolutely 100% do that, because of the family ties and everything. So many in-character moments as well, like the 2015 Royal Rumble and The Rock's face when he was like, oh, brother, this is not good. So there's so much you could do with that, but the Hollywood schedule obviously is an issue, as is the fact that The Rock gets injured horrifically every time he performs these days. So if there's a way to put that together, it's a no-brainer. However, I think the chances are slim.
If it turns out that WWE's been firing all these people and undercutting contracts and stuff just so they can afford an insurance policy for The Rock, it'd almost make it worth it. It wouldn't, but almost. It's not going to happen, no. I do like Brock as a face, though, going up against Roman heel at WrestleMania. Nice sort of switching of roles there. Final question today comes from Corey Wotton95 on Twitter. Switching over to AEW with this one. Will Hobbs is a curious choice to join Moxley's team for the six-man tag team match taking place on Dynamite this week. Oh, daddy, I can't wait for this one. Do you think he's just there to take the pin, or could he follow in Shooter footsteps, or Shota Umino's footsteps, and become Moxley's new protege?
Interesting proposition, him becoming Moxley's protege. I kind of see that almost being the relationship between Moxley and Darby Allin rather than Moxley and Will Hobbs. I think, like, in character, the John Moxley decision here was to go, well, this guy was like going toe-to-toe with Lance and Brian Cage in the Battle Royale at All Out, so of course I'm going to pick him because he's shown he can go toe-to-toe with him. So it's interesting from that perspective. I don't necessarily think he's there just to take the pin. I think he might take the pin, but I don't think they added him to the match just to go, hey, we need someone to take the loss, because they could have done that with anyone. I think this is just Will Hobbs making the most of his minutes, getting that contract, standing out. Tony Khan going, whoa, this guy's really good. It's a product of the meritocracy for me.
Exactly, and they're very hot on him at the moment, so don't be surprised if he doesn't take the pin in that match. I really am looking forward to that this week. Let's move on to today's, and finally, and of course, everyone waking up today talking about the Emmys. I want to take you back 21 years, the 1999 Emmys, which saw, as you can see here, Stone Cold Steve Austin showing up not in a nice, smart, casual outfit, not in a resplendent three-piece suit, but just as Stone Cold Steve Austin, just not a leather jacket, a leather vest and jeans to the Emmys. I want to see him alongside people who spent thousands of pounds on suits. It wouldn't have been, oh, what about the Attitude Era if he turned up in a suit, to be fair.
Yeah, no, I haven't seen this in years and years. It's always a Jeb. Classic.
Exactly. Send us more photos of wrestlers in character in weird situations. That is your task for today. Let us know your thoughts on that and all of today's news stories in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And subscribe to What Culture Wrestling on either iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts from, for daily wrestling podcasts. Myself and the Dudley Boys previewing Monday Night Raw a little bit later on today. Plus, let us know your thoughts, Twitter questions, or just continue the conversation on Twitter at WhatCultureWWE. Watch there. Follow both of us. You can follow Andy Murray at
Andy H. Murray. The H stands for Happy Birthday Ricky Morton, one of the greatest of all time.
Oh, yeah, legend. Follow me at Adam Wilborn. Follow us all at WhatCultureWWE, as I said. But for now, my thanks to Andy Murray. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you soon.